Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. Well, what's happening? It's been increasing over the last 50 years since it's been out there. The government has been Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto, we are going to be diving into the FTX story, and we're going to be talking about whether or not you, former FTX customer, no longer able to get your money out of the platform, will ever get your money back. Now, I want to preface before I jump into the stream, I am not a bankruptcy expert, but what I can do is I can do a little bit of research and give you guys some background on whether or not you're ever going to get your money back. And we're going to take a look at another historical example of an exchange that went bankrupt. In this case, it wasn't so much because the exchange was, I don't know, trying to write the Wolf of Wall Street version 2. More so, it was an exchange that people didn't really know exactly what they were doing and it got hacked. It's called Mt. Gox, not we're called. I'm definitely not part of Mt. Gox. I was not around back then. I was in 7th grade when Mt. Gox went under. 10 years ago, Mt. Gox, the largest cryptocurrency exchange by a long shot, went bankrupt. Today, 10 years later, people are still trying to get their money back. Is that what's going to happen with FTX? Or even worse, are people just straight up never going to get their money back? We're going to dive into all of that and more in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis so that you guys can stay informed, up to date, and learn a thing or two, hopefully from me, and I can learn a thing or two, hopefully from you, about the cryptocurrency markets, the financial markets, geopolitical markets, and the overall landscape of what's going on in the cryptocurrency markets. I'm very blessed to be able to be here today. We have 2 different doctors that we're going to as soon as the stream is over. Sarah believed that it was safe for me to go ahead and do the stream, so as the last 3 streams have been, I am ready at a moment's notice to cut the stream and leave if I need to, just so you know. A little bit of filling in for anybody who doesn't know what's going on. My wife has been having quite a lot of contractions. We're 25 weeks in a day pregnant. She's been having them for the last 2.5 days, and she was discharged from the hospital. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, and hopefully give you guys an example of what a Christian should do in this example, because it is an extreme temptation to be bitter right now. There's absolutely a temptation to be bitter at what the hospital did. We're going to talk about that some more. I will not name the hospital. I don't have any interest in defaming the hospital. I'm not the kind of person to file lawsuits, but what took place was absolutely horrendous, and you guys can be praying for us and this unnamed hospital that they will get their act together, because what took place was dangerous. If you guys don't know what's going on, I'll fill you in at the end of the stream. You didn't come for the personal story, but I know you're interested, so we will, or I hope, it seems like a lot of you guys are interested anyway, so I'll tell you more about that later. Let's go ahead and read chat. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. We've got over 130 people here already. We're sitting here at 38 likes. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes even before I jump on to CoinMarketCap. Jebb, you need a stylist. You dang right I do. I had an amazing haircut about 3 months ago, but it's been so long since I got a haircut that my hair is just all over the place. I think my hair shows you just how hectic life has been over the last month or so. I haven't even had a chance to get a haircut, and man, I really do need one. So be praying for me to find time and the person to cut my hair. Hope it wasn't UF. It wasn't UF. Let's see. Queen is here. Shout out to Queen. They were first. Crypto Ben Franklin said, "Good morning, everyone. I think I'm first." Oh, I'm sorry, man. On my screen anyway, Queen was first. I was second. You were third. Crypto Mini Bike in chat also said, "Good morning, everyone." Crypto Nebs 83 said, "Hey, Jebb, smash the likes for Jebb. Thank you so much." Mike Lowry in chat said, "Good morning. Happy FinSoft Friday." Happy FinSoft Friday indeed. If you guys don't know what FinSoft is, that is the idea of the fact that you should have sovereignty over your finances. The Bible talks about this quite a lot, actually. It talks about the debt the person that has the debt being the slave or the servant to the person that is holding the debt. I don't want you guys to be in debt. I'm not saying debt is a bad thing. Debt is something that can be used. I've used it before, but I want you guys to not be in debt. I want you guys to have currencies that are conducive to you growing your financial picture and your wealth into the future. Bible talks a lot about people in the parable of the talents. Jesus gives a certain amount of money to the different stewards, and the steward that hides it in the ground does nothing with it. He's reprimanded, but the steward that goes out and multiplies the one talent that was given to him, which a talent was a big hunking thing of silver. It was basically a standard unit of exchange in the Roman Empire. The ones that went out and grew it by 3, 5, and 10x, they were rewarded because they were good stewards of the wealth that was entrusted to them, and they invested it and grew it. That's what I want you guys to do, is invest, grow, and protect your wealth. When people's in chat as well, Crypto Mini Bike in chat. A lot of people saying good morning. Really appreciate the warm welcome this morning. Justin Eubank said, good morning, Jebb. Happy Friday. Hello. Grand Roofing Incorporated in chat said, good morning, Jebb. Good morning, everybody. Justin Eubank said, good morning, Queen. Ben Saul Franklin. Crypto Ben Franklin and everybody else. Let's see. Mike Lowry said, I'm not here to be rich, but to be financially sovereign so that I can live the life I was meant to live without worrying about day-to-day experiences. Exactly. Jesus talks about not worrying about the day-to-day, not worrying about tomorrow, for isn't today's worries enough for today? I want you guys to not have to worry about tomorrow and focus on what you are called to today and not have to worry about the money side of that. Let's see. Classic IT Guy is in chat. Let's see. Who else? Crypto JMP. Let's make sure I'm not missing anybody. Got a lot of people praying for Sarah in chat. Thank you guys so much. Amello Fellow said, I'm praying for you and Sarah, Jebb. I hope the baby comes when she's due. That is exactly what we are praying for also. Have you seen your portfolio? You got a haircut. Yeah, I can get a haircut. I just don't have time to get a haircut, and I need to find time to get a haircut because I could really use one. Good morning, Jebb. Coins Chick said, hello. Good deal. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump on to CoinMarketCap. As I said, really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. It means so much to me that you guys have been so patient with me through this time, and luckily we've been able to make videos and streams through it. So really excited for what 2023 is going to bring. Let's jump onto the chart. Onto CoinMarketCap, rather. Right now, Bitcoin trading at $16,750. Year to date, it's up 0.88%. Ethereum up 4%. Ethereum very well may outpace Bitcoin relatively soon. That would not be surprised at all. I'm actually going to pull up this article as well, not that image. I want to pull up that article, and we will look at that here in a little while because that actually does have a little bit to do with what we're talking about today, I do believe. We have Binance Coin sitting here at $256 and change, up 5% year to date. XRP sitting at 33 cents. It's basically trading sideways. Cardano is at 27 cents, up 8% year to date, 1.53% over the last 24 hours. A lot of people knocking Cardano. Let me just go ahead and break something down for you. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm gonna just explain something to you. Cardano dropped 92% so far during this bull market. Two things here. There's a lot more we could go into, but I'm going to keep it brief because we're still in the market watch. First of all, it dropping 92% is not even as far as Ethereum dropped during the last bear market. Ethereum dropped from all-time high at $1,400 all the way down to 77. It dropped 95%. And then Ethereum from its local bottom would go on to rally 6,000% in the span of 3 years. The reason that Ethereum was able to do that was because it had wonderful technology that millions of people wanted to adopt and develop on, and it had a use case that met a very large problem in the world. People want to build decentralized applications. They want to do it in a fast, secure, scalable way that has the ability to reach masses on a broadly adopted blockchain. That's what Ethereum built on. Cardano is building the exact same thing. And in the next bull market, when you see crypto go to $10 trillion in market capitalization, that might be 2025, 2026 at this point, but when that does happen, and I'm very confident that it will, you're going to see Cardano do something very similar because there's going to be enough room in the space for Cardano to be as valuable in the next bull market as Ethereum was at its all-time high. That would send Cardano absolutely moonshotting because if you take a look at Cardano right now, it's trading at $9 billion. I'm talking about Cardano being worth as much as Ethereum at its peak. Ethereum at its peak was worth $600 billion. So we're talking about a 6,000% return. Again, same thing you saw in Ethereum happening on Cardano. I think you're going to see something very similar happen. I would not at all be surprised to see Cardano at $10 to $15 during the peak of the next bull market. I'm not saying it belongs at $10 or $15. I am, however, saying that it's very easy for cryptocurrency markets to get heavily inflated. I think that Cardano, in a proper context of what the market looks like in 5 years, could easily be sitting at $5 to $10 as a fair market value. Of course, a blow-off peak could send it to 20 or 25, but I don't think it would stay up there very long. Similarly to how Cardano fairly right now, based on what the average market interest is. Right now, we're very low. 2 years ago, we were very high. It's probably worth between 50 cents and $1.25 right now based on its adoption. I think it's oversold right now. It was overbought before when it went up to $3. Of course, a lot of that was hype. Now, the second thing on Cardano to keep in mind, again, I'm just doing a little bit of a brief overview for anybody who's invested in it. Cardano's also in this gigantic falling wedge. This is one of the most monumental falling wedges I have ever seen in my entire career of technical analysis. You very rarely see a giant falling wedge this way, where you don't also have absolutely atrocious fundamentals. Cardano does not have absolutely atrocious fundamentals. It still has strong fundamentals. Cardano is definitely in hibernation right now, as is the rest of cryptocurrency, but that does not mean that Cardano is dead. That being said, Cardano is the last of the 3 investments I'm making. You guys know, I've told you many times, we invested a certain amount of money into Bitcoin. I won't go into the exact strategy because I want to save time and keep moving here. We invested 50% of our round into Bitcoin, 30% of our rounds, we did 2 rounds, into Ethereum, and 20% of our rounds into Cardano. I think Cardano is great, but I think it is, of course, the most risky of those 3, and so that's why we only put 20% of the 100% into it, because there is a potential that Cardano doesn't recover. There is a potential that Cardano is one of the projects that'll die during this bear market. I don't think that's likely. I think it's one of the least likely to just completely die during this bear market. I think it's one of the most likely to recover back to all-time high during the next bear market, but fact of the matter is Cardano is not as proven or as adopted as Ethereum. So I don't want to just sit here and be a Cardano fanboy and act like there's nothing wrong with it. There are genuine concerns, and one of those being adoption. Even though it has great technology, we want to make sure it has the adoption to back it up. And we're going to have to see a lot of that pour in during the next bull market, because a lot of things didn't get built on Cardano during this last bull market because it just wasn't ready yet. Cardano wanted to build it correctly, and that's a good thing. So long as it can survive this bear market, I think the next bull market, it will solidify itself in history as the number 2 largest decentralized application blockchain in this market. So those would be my thoughts on Cardano. You tell me what you think down below. Polygon doing pretty well, up 2.48% year to date. We've got Litecoin up 5% year to date. Litecoin went through a pretty major jump over the last 90 days, up 40%. It's been doing relatively well. I would encourage you to be a little careful of Litecoin, because Litecoin has not managed to keep up with Bitcoin. Litecoin has a trajectory over the last several years. I can even show you here, LTC to BTC. It has a trajectory over the last 7 years of losing value month over month, year over year against Bitcoin. Taking the log chart off, you can see that this is its trend against Bitcoin. This is not the kind of market, in my opinion, that you want to invest in unless there is an extremely strong fundamental incentive to invest in this market that has not reached maturity yet. For example, if Litecoin was a very strong, had an extremely strong use case, and it was number 1, number 2 in its field, had great technology, had an incredible founder who was still active, had a lot of interest in it, had a lot of adoption, whatever, you name it. Fundamentally, if it was a great project, that would be different. Litecoin, however, has only continued to shed value against Bitcoin for a very long time, dropping as far as 95% from where it began against Bitcoin, trading at 4 cents against Bitcoin. 4% to Bitcoin. Right now it's trading at 0.4%, 0.44% to Bitcoin. So it's down 95% from where this chart starts back in 2013. It has not kept up with Bitcoin. This is not a chart you would want to invest in when you could just as easily invest in an altcoin, in another cryptocurrency that is virtually identical to Litecoin, but is vastly superior in adoption, technology, use case, regulatory understanding, and customer acceptance like Bitcoin. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Litecoin. It was the first cryptocurrency I ever bought, and I just happened to buy it right back over here when Litecoin was going absolutely crazy, and I did make some money off of it, but I wouldn't personally invest in it for the long term. And for example, let me just show you the difference, not the difference per se, because it's actually somewhat similar, but similarly over here with Cardano, Cardano's down a lot against Bitcoin. So this is another point, is that you can either see this as a buying opportunity, in the same way you could see what I just showed you as a buying opportunity. This is different, though, because there's a lot of fundamentals and potential here. Litecoin, not so much, at least in my opinion. So do what you will with that. Love to hear your thoughts on that in the chat. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a remarkably powerful asset. As we know, Bitcoin has the potential to completely revolutionize how we look at finances on a global scale. The question is, how does it get there? Because the world that we live in is heavily built on ideas of credit. It is heavily built upon this idea of currency wars, this idea of manipulate your currency so that you can use it as a geopolitical weapon so that you don't have to actually fire bullets against your enemies. That's essentially what the U.S. does with the U.S. dollar. That's what Congress people will testify in front of these FTX hearings, is that I forget that there's the one guy, he's the one dude that's ranked an F on the cryptocurrency safety index or whatever it is, as far as he's a senator. And he said that this is in the testimony of John J. Ray III, the day that Sam Bankman-Fried was supposed to be there. You can go back and watch that testimony. And he talked about how Bitcoin is not a threat, he said, but he said that it is a competitor, and it's an open competitor to the U.S. dollar. And the U.S. dollar is used as one of the strongest weapons that the United States has. And that's absolutely true. We live in a world right now where two things are true. First of all, currencies are used as weapons, which whenever you use something as a weapon, whenever there's a battle going on, there's naturally going to be friendly fire, there's going to be fratricide, and there's also going to be casualties of war and civilian casualties of war, if you will, that are just caught in the crossfire. And that's what we are as civilians right now. We're caught in the crossfire of international monetary battles. Now, for the most part, most of the world's allied on their currencies. We're talking all of Europe, pretty much all of North America, some of the South Chinese region, the Southeastern Asia, the oceanic areas. So we're talking about New Zealand and Australia. Pretty much all of those nations are allied in kind of the NATO sphere and the English-speaking Anglo-Saxon sphere. However, there are nations that are not so friendly. And so you have NATO, and you have Russia, and you have China, primarily. China and Russia, kind of friends. They can't really decide whether they like each other or not. They're kind of more like frenemies rather than actual allies. You pretty much have a global economic battle going on between the West and the East right now. And that's causing a lot of problems for a lot of people. The second problem is that you need a currency that has a huge amount of liquidity to actually allow the entire global economy to function. You can't do that on any other currency than the United States dollar, or maybe one day Bitcoin. I'm talking about world reserve currency here. I'm talking about what currency the globe operates on a basis of trade. There is no architecture right now in the world whatsoever, including Bitcoin, that can do that other than the United States dollar. Bitcoin has the code to do it. I'm saying it doesn't have the regulatory layer to do it. So two things here, or well, maybe two things here. First of all, Bitcoin has the potential from the rationale, from what exists fundamentally in the form of how divisible it is. Its block times, its transactability, its fungibility, its solvency, its salability, all of these things. It has the potential one day to dominate world trade, to dominate as the world reserve currency. That is theoretically possible. The thing is, Bitcoin would need to be worth well over $100 trillion, because that's what the United States dollar is worth to lubricate the entire global economic system. Bitcoin is decades from that. Bitcoin might only be 8-10 years from $1 million, but you need a $10 million Bitcoin based on today's dollars for Bitcoin to be able to be valuable enough and to have warranted enough investment in its regulatory and payments space to allow for Bitcoin to go on such a massive bull market that it's able to conquer the entire global industry of trade. That's something that is a very difficult feat to do, because the only other times in human history that that's ever happened was when an entire nation did that. The three that come to mind are currently the United States. The United States dollar hegemony is not going to get dethroned anytime soon by anybody but maybe the Bitcoin market, and that's a stretch, and that's definitely decades away. The other two that come to mind are the British and the Spanish. The British at one point were using Spanish currency because the Spanish had the most powerful currency that everybody knew was going to be able to be the most stable even against their own currency, so people used it. Bitcoin, in theory, this is what people pose, wants to vie for that. That's going to be very, very difficult without a couple decades of development on the infrastructural space. However, Bitcoin does have an ace up its sleeve, and that is very simply that it's possible. That is not, make no mistake, that is not possible for the euro. Why? Demographically, Europe is going to collapse in the next 30 to 50 years. Their industrial base is absolutely imploding on itself. Germany is about to have about 10 million people age into retirement, and they don't have anybody to replace those people in the workforce. Germany's industrial sector is about to get completely hollowed out. Same thing with most of the other nations in Europe. The euro, fat chance, it is not going to be able to go on and be the world reserve currency, especially with Europe likely losing a lot of monetary power over the next 10 to 20 years, especially even just over the next 5 years. Russia, no way. You think anybody wants to use the Russian ruble as their world reserve currency? Nope. China, they're constantly manipulating it. Anytime they open it for foreign investment, everybody ends up using the currency in a way that is not designed to, and they have to slam the door shut and allow for and start having really tight controls on it again. It is one of the most heavily regulated national currencies in the world, and there are no other contenders. There are no other nations powerful enough to even have any kind of chance of being world reserve currencies. Bitcoin, theoretically, because it's coming at it from a completely different angle, it's not a national currency, it is just a currency that is completely independent, theoretically has the potential to be the world reserve currency. If, and this is where geopolitics comes in, if something were to happen to the US dollar and everybody looked for an alternative, or just certain nations started looking for an alternative. For example, Russia very well might look at Bitcoin and say, hey, nobody wants to use the ruble, but people might want to use Bitcoin. So maybe we'll use Bitcoin so that we can have a like means of exchange between other nations to make trade more convenient if they give up on the idea of Russia dominating the world, because it's frankly not going to happen. China, maybe, probably not. Many other smaller nations that obviously they know they have no chance of ever being world reserve currencies or even growing their currency to the point of being an economic weapon, like El Salvador, then they may end up adopting Bitcoin, and you might see a wave of 10 or 20 smaller nations adopting Bitcoin as their national currency. That's going to be the first step, and that's going to take at least 10 years to get to the point where you have 10 or 20 countries adopting Bitcoin as their national currency, and that in and of itself is going to be difficult unless we can get this industry built in a way that people are actually confident to hold their money in it. Because right now, people are not confident to hold their money in Bitcoin because this industry that's been built on top of it but is not Bitcoin. Make no mistake, Binance is not Bitcoin. FTX is not Bitcoin. Coinbase is not Bitcoin. I'm not Bitcoin. Any of your favorite influencers, they are not Bitcoin. We, all the companies, all the people, everything built on top of Bitcoin is just that. It's built on top of Bitcoin. If people start to trust in Bitcoin, even though they might not trust in the industry built on top of it that drives the price of it, then yes, maybe we'll have a massive amount of adoption. The reason I bring all that up is because I want to give you the long-term perspective here. And to have the long-term perspective, you need to kind of see the roadmap. 30, 50 years from now, very possible that Bitcoin is the world reserve currency. However, that is a long shot unless a lot of people lose faith in the US dollar. And if they do, that actually kind of might make sense, because there's nothing in this world, and there's nothing that's going to appear in this world in the next 20 years at very least, that is going to be able to compete with the US dollar to be a world reserve currency. Literally, and I'm telling you the truth here, there is not a single other currency, there's not a single other national or regional currency like the euro on planet Earth that could replace the dollar as the world reserve currency and the backbone of global trade. Doesn't exist. You would end up having to go to every country using their own currency, and then everybody doing Forex trades back and forth to trade oil. Bitcoin has that potential. So if the US dollar stops being so strong, which might happen, doesn't look like it right now, we have some of the strongest demographics, some of the strongest economics right now, then potentially Bitcoin has an opportunity. However, you step back a little bit, Bitcoin could become very involved in certain kinds of trades, such as Russia trying to buy oil when they're embargo. They might want to end up using Bitcoin for that kind of thing, and that could end up bringing a lot of investment and value into the price. Things that are less militarily fiery, you might say, would be other kinds of trade between two different nations that the United States and NATO don't like, but they want to be able to trade with each other in a way that doesn't use the US dollar, so they're not strengthening their enemy. Then that might be a case where Bitcoin could have a lot of growth as well. Same thing with again, many of the nations in Africa, many of the nations in Latin and South America, many of those nations may end up adopting Bitcoin because they realize, hey, look, the dollar's not doing them any favors, but Bitcoin is a neutral player that might end up helping them in a way that it helped El Salvador. So in 8 to 10 years, you could see Bitcoin being the national currency of 8 to 10 countries, maybe 20, maybe. On top of that, just keep in mind that the way that most people look at Bitcoin is not so much as a daily driver currency, but as an investment. So looking at the chart, what does all that mean for Bitcoin? Essentially, that means that Bitcoin has a path to continue marching upwards here. It does indeed have a path to continue marching higher and higher and higher up towards $100,000 territory, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 territory. The tricky thing is that for Bitcoin to do that, it's got to get through some of these, how might you say, PR nightmares. Mt. Gox repayment registration deadline moved to March 2023. So let me just remind you, Mt. Gox went bankrupt. I'll show you on the chart here because it'll be what you're most familiar with. Mt. Gox went bankrupt, if I remember correctly. I believe it was right here. Now, I was not in the cryptocurrency space at the time, but I want to say it was December of 2013. You guys can fact check me and tell me whether I'm right or wrong on that over on the in the stream chat. But I want to say it was 2013. That means 10 years ago, Mt. Gox went down, and people are still trying to get some of their money back. The deadline for base repayment, early lump sum repayment, and intermediate repayment was also moved from July 31st to September 30th. Early lump sum repayment and intermediate repayment and base repayment. Wow. Mt. Gox creditors will have more time to decide on which repayment method they want to be paid in and register their payee information at the defunct crypto exchange. In an announcement dated January 6th, Mt. Gox trustee I've talked about this guy on the channel before, and I can't ever pronounce his name. Nobuaki Kobayashi, I think I actually got that right. Tell me in chat if I did, anybody that speaks Japanese. Stated that the previous announcement deadline for repayment selection was on January 10, has now been moved to March 10, citing the progress by rehabilitation creditors in the selection and registration as a reason for the change in deadline. The announcement also urged creditors to complete the necessary steps before the new deadline. The update wrote that the rehabilitation creditors who failed to complete the selection and registration within the new deadline will not be able to receive the repayments, or in some cases might have to bring documents to the exchange's head office to receive the repayments in Japanese yen. So let's roll that back. It's been 10 years, and the best they've been able to come up with is this. The update wrote that the rehabilitation creditors who failed to complete the selection and registration within the new deadline will not be able to receive their repayment, or in some cases may have to bring documents to the exchange's head office to receive their repayments in Japanese yen. By the way, they're giving this out in Japanese yen too, not dollars. The rehabilitation trustee will begin confirming the content of your selection and registration, etc. after this point in time to make repayment as promptly as possible after March 10th, 2023, Japan time. The update also clarified that those who have already completed the process don't need to perform it again. In addition, the update asked those who already completed the process to abstain from making any revisions to registration to make the confirmation process more smooth. Following the change of the selection and registration, the trustee also obtained court permission to move the deadline from the base repayment, early lump sum repayment, and intermediate repayment from July 31st, 2023. The deadline is now moved to September 30th, 2023. Back on August 29th, rumors of a massive Bitcoin dump from Mt. Gox circulated on social media. However, creditors of the defunct trading platform dismissed the rumors and said they are still unable to register where they can receive the funds owed to them by Mt. Gox 10 years on. So, that brings us to the question. If you, my friend, had money on FTX, how long is it going to take for you to get your money back? And if you get your money back, how much is it going to be worth in 10 years? That's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the long-term picture, because a lot of these people are getting their money back, but getting their money back, hopefully. But Bitcoin's worth so much more now than it was. And they lost the ability to do anything about it because they don't have any time left, because that 10 years have already passed. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying today's video, make sure to smash that like button. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Let's see if we can't get up to 200 likes here in the next couple of minutes. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. When Silvergate, Genesis, and DCG fail, the BTC will go sub 11,000. Very possible if all of them do. Hey, Jebb, can you make a video on just the power of U.S. currency and how Bitcoin could become the world reserve currency? Then I can show it to my boomer parents and friends. I could, but here's the thing. Bitcoin to become the world reserve currency, first of all, that's a long shot. Because a world reserve currency is normally a world reserve currency because there's somebody that controls it. So you'd have to have a complete and total paradigm shift in human civilization for Bitcoin to become the world reserve currency. It's possible, but it's really difficult. BRICS currency, not a chance. First of all, they don't have a unified currency. Second of all, those are basically just nations that get in a room and talk about trade once a year. You're not talking about NATO or Europe level of cooperation. And also, that alliance is kind of falling apart right now. The future of finance will be built on blockchain. That's absolutely true. I hope. Much West Michigan love. I've missed you at Crypto Jebb, the Jar Bear. Thank you, Eric Browning. West Michigan. Are you talking about West Michigan in the Lower Peninsula, or do you mean like the western part as in the Upper Peninsula? Tell me where do you mean on there? Because we've been to both. We were the SS Badger across Lake Michigan back in August. Actually, on my birthday. I'm ready for financial sovereignty. I will fight until hell freezes over and then fight on the ice. Okay, somebody's excited. Let's see. All right. So let's keep moving here. I have two articles here that I want to read to you. And then we're going to talk about Huobi a little bit later because there's some news about them. Will FTX traders get their money back? And this is a little bit of an older article, but it's not something that's really going to change a whole lot day to day. Will FTX traders get their money back? Bankruptcy expert weighs in. Creditors in a multi-billion-dollar bankruptcy could number more than 1 million. Disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried appeared in a Manhattan courtroom on Thursday to face federal charges, a major step as prosecutors seek answers for what they've described as a fraud of epic proportions. More than 1 million possible victims, however, remain in the early stages of a likely years-long bankruptcy proceeding that will probably return only a portion of the money they lost, some bankruptcy experts told ABC News. According to the indictment, Bankman-Fried, who was ordered released on $250 million bond and did not enter a plea. And by the way, he's now entered a plea. He pleaded not guilty. This is an older article. Allegedly stole $8 billion from FTX investors and customers and used it to pay debt and expenses of Alameda Research, his privately held hedge fund. He also used the money to purchase lavish real estate and make political donations to mainly Democrats, but also some Republicans, as he sought influence in Washington, prosecutors say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got a really holy mess here. G. Ray Warner, a bankruptcy law professor at St. John's University, told ABC News, this really isn't a normal corporate bankruptcy. Yeah, for real. The testimony before the House last week, FTX CEO John Ray said that he and his colleagues are now working on behalf of the FTX group to achieve one fundamental goal, maximizing value for FTX's customers and creditors so that we can mitigate to the greatest extent possible the harm suffered by so many. I watched that testimony, and seems like John J. Ray III is doing the best that he can with a very, very bad situation. So I'm going to scroll down here because this is talking about where they are right now. This is a little bit of an older article, so I'm just going to kind of skip over that. I mean, a lot of it's still valuable. The number of creditors seeking reimbursement numbers at least 100,000. It may reach more than 1 million, etc. The company, which as of last month held about $1.25 billion in assets, said it still owes more than $3 billion to its 50 biggest creditors, plus additional money on top of that. By the way, that's why I said Silvergate was such a big deal yesterday. FTX, you might look at Silvergate and say, oh, it's only worth $400 million market cap. FTX was worth $32 billion market cap. Way big difference, right? The amount of money that if Silvergate went bankrupt that they could owe that they might not have could be $2 billion, which is getting into the range of what FTX was doing. Hopefully it won't actually happen that big. Ray told members of Congress last week that that FTX lacked corporate controls to an extent that he had never witnessed, etc. He also said that they were doing their accounting on QuickBooks for a company of thousands of employees with billions of dollars in assets. Yay, I love QuickBooks. We use QuickBooks, but we have 3 employees. They had like 3,000. That's a big difference. The first claim that some crypto traders will make is that lost money belongs to them rather than to FTX, said Warner of St. John's University. If the creditors can prove that their money was held independently from the company's pot of assets, then the money can be returned to them prior to the completion of the bankruptcy proceedings, granted them their best chance at full repayment, he said. That would likely be larger institutional investors or different companies like a BlockFi that were dealing with them. The distinction is if you had loaned me your car for the week and I didn't give it back and I filed bankruptcy, the car wouldn't be part of the bankruptcy estate. You would be able to get your car back from me. Such attempts at speedy asset recovery usually fail since they must meet strict conditions and they otherwise undermine the fairness of dividing assets equally among creditors, Warner said. But some crypto traders may recover money in this way, perhaps in cases where they deposited funds into an FTX account but didn't invest them, he added. For the most part, FTX creditors will await the full bankruptcy process in which officials claw back, identify value, and ultimately reorganize or liquidate company assets. In a statement on Monday, FTX said that some recipients of donations from the company, Bankman-Fried, or other officials have sought instruction for the return of such money. The company called on other donation recipients to come forward, noting that it will otherwise pursue legal actions to secure the funds. So let's roll that back. The recipients of donations from the company will need to return them. Those are mostly politicians of the Democratic leaning. After assets are recovered, crypto traders will have to wait in line behind other parties who stand to receive lost money. Priorities include unpaid taxes, unfulfilled salary payments to employees, and other company expenses. Shareholders and other company investors stand at the end of the line behind the traders. How long will it take for crypto traders to get their money back? The exact duration of the bankruptcy process remains uncertain, but it could very well take several years before crypto traders receive their money, some bankruptcy experts say. Stuart Brown, a partner at DLA Piper who specializes in bankruptcy, told ABC News that comparable proceedings have transpired for several months without resolutions, or for 10 years if you're Mt. Gox, which is likely what's going to take place here. read one last thing here. Crypto traders are likely to recover at least some of their lost assets, the bankruptcy experts say. If history is any indication of the future, there's a good likelihood the creditors will realize substantial recoveries. I think that's a little bit optimistic, but the prospects are dim for full recovery of lost assets. It's almost certainly that they'll get that back, but it's unlikely they're going to get anything near 100%. I would be surprised if people got back anything over 20% of what they had deposited, and the reason is FTX, first of all, doesn't have any money left. I mean, they've got $1.2 billion in assets, but they have several billion dollars that they owe. You read it in the article. They owe $3 billion alone to the biggest 50 creditors. So if those were the only people collecting money, then they would only be able to get 40% if that's the only thing FTX owed money for, but it's not. First of all, FTX owes money to John J. Ray III and the rest of the people that are running a skeleton crew at FTX to try and figure out what in the world happened. They got to pay the attorneys. As they said, they also have to pay out certain salaries and taxes that had not been paid, and you better bet your bottom dollar people are looking into whether or not tax evasion was going on at FTX, and if it was, they're going to have to pay that money out of what's left as well. On top of that, it's not just those 50 investors, one of those, of course, being BlockFi, that have money lent to them. It's also over 1 million people that were trading on the platform with deposits exceeding what seemed to be at least $11 billion in total. So it seemed like they had $11 billion in liabilities and they got $1.25 billion left. That's why I say it'd be extremely unlikely if people got anything more than 20% back. There is a wild card here that can make things better or worse, and that is that many of the company's assets are seemingly still locked up in certain cryptocurrency projects that are relatively illiquid. And the reason they're somewhat illiquid is because if you tried to liquidate some of these assets, then you would end up absolutely destroying the price of them. For example, Solana being one of them, FTT token, of course, that's not really going to go anywhere anymore, and a couple of others that were on their balance sheet. If those assets go through a 10x and the Solana they're holding is no longer worth $9 or $12 or wherever it is, but goes to being worth $120, and all of a sudden, FTX just made a huge profit and maybe everybody's made whole, and FTX could pay everybody out and shut its doors. That's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel potential. But honestly, I don't even know whether or not, one, they've been able to track down the Solana. I'm not even sure they actually know where it is. And two, the Solana is, Solana going back to all-time high is a very, very much of a long shot, in my opinion. Same thing with the rest of the cryptocurrencies that they are invested in, because most of their money was held in little dinky cryptocurrencies that are probably not going to recover during the bear market. If somehow we went into a bull market in the next 6 months, everything quadrupled in price, then maybe FTX customers would be more likely to get a lot more money out. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you guys know I'm going to be honest with you, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm not very confident that FTX users are going to get much or any of their money back. I would be looking at 5 to 10 cents on the dollar at most. So, sorry to be the one to tell you that, but that's likely going to be the real the reality of it, and it's probably going to take years also. You know, the IRS will get their cut first, lol. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm talking about. All right, let's see. We got a donation from the Fun Family. Man, the Fun Family donated. Thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Let's see. Morning out of the gym, just saying hello. Been watching while I work out. What's up, Freedom Advocate? Good to see you, my friend. Good morning. Was today's news bullish or bearish for Bitcoin? Because as of right now, Bitcoin seems to be trying to liquidate anyone who takes a position. That's kind of what I'm talking about. We're going to get into today's news here in just a little bit. Just want to break down the FTX stuff for you. Let's see. If you watch crypto while working out, you're going to make it at Freedom Advocate. There you go. Boom. Matt C's in chat said, now you're making me feel lazy. You're making me feel lazy too. Freedom Advocate said, bro, if you're not exercising while you work 60-hour work weeks and don't volunteer for something, you are, lol, JK. There you go. Off to work. Have a great day, everyone. Have a good one, Matt C. Have a great one, Matt C. Have a wonderful day, everyone. There you go, Satoshi Nakamoto. Boom, Satoshi Nakamoto's in chat. Satoshi, tell us what we need to do. What do we need to do to get out of this mess? Sam's liquidating. Yeah, he very well may be when he faces that 115-year charge. He very well could become liquid, if you know what I mean. We're praying for you and Sarah. Thank you. Thank you so much. We receive it and appreciate it. Guys, hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's see if we can't get to 200 likes. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin's price. Look at it through the lens of Lux Algo. What are we seeing here? I'm going to remove all the drawings and start fresh with a clean chart. Let's go ahead and start out by looking at the overall price action of Bitcoin. As you can see, it's doing basically nothing. Bitcoin has been trading almost perfectly sideways for a while now, bouncing off of support around $16,303, and it's gotten absolutely no momentum. There's nothing going on. We're trading sideways right now. There is potential that Bitcoin could be forming a bull flag right here. You can see that showing up right there. This bull flag could very well send Bitcoin to the upside. We could see Bitcoin rallying up to $17,300 from that. That's a bit of a stretch because right now we're in this sideways movement. We're in this sideways action. We're not doing anything. If you look here on Luxalgo Price Action Concepts, which, by the way, if you guys don't have Luxalgo, you definitely should get it. It is incredible. You can see equilibrium is sitting right here in this zone between 16.7 and 16.740. You can see the premium is sitting up here around 17,000, the discount sitting down here around 16.5, and you can also see the different zones. We have an order block sitting right here on that flat level of support that I showed you. We also have an order block sitting right above us. We have an order block sitting right below us, and an order block sitting below us as well. So basically what all of this tells us is that Bitcoin is, it's on the higher end of its current range because it dropped down so much, but it's not really, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because if you just look at the overall trend, this is basically the overall trend with a little bit of jumps above, a little bit of bounces below. And Bitcoin has not really been able to maintain a whole lot of anything of a trend because there's absolutely no interest and nobody's confident enough to buy. Let me back up here for a second. Let me explain what's going on here because I know a lot of you are probably wondering, well, Jebb, why is Bitcoin not moving? Here's why. Very simply, the bulls are not confident to buy Bitcoin because they don't know whether the bottom is in. The bears are not confident to sell Bitcoin because they don't want to sell the bottom. So the market doesn't do anything. You don't see this happen at the top of bull markets. It's different. At the top of bull markets, the bulls are excited and you have such an influx of bulls that are young in the market and they don't know what they're doing and they don't care if the market's already up 6,000%. They're going to buy anyway. You don't see bullish pressure just vanish at the top of a bull market in the same way you see bearish pressure, the driving pressure, vanish at the bottom. The problem is at the top, everybody's interested and everybody's going to make a decision because everybody just jumps straight to making a trade, whether it be a buy or a sell. In the bottom, everybody's a lot more hesitant. They're a lot more careful, a whole lot more careful. The bulls, as I said, they're not confident enough to buy the bottom because they don't know whether the bottom's come in yet. They also don't want to deploy some of their liquid capital in cash or yen or euro or pound or ruble or whatever it is into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin loses value, and then an opportunity shows up in real estate or in Forex or in the stock market, and their money's locked up in Bitcoin, which is down 27%. And they realize in 10 years it might be worth a lot, but over the next 3 months it might just go down, so they want to hold it in some kind of liquid capital. So they have all that dry powder sitting on the sidelines. I can even show you what that looks like. And again, this is just the bullish side of things. I'll look at the bearish side of things here in a second. I can give you a perfect prime data-driven example of this. If we look over here, I believe, now I'm assuming, but I'm pretty sure my assumption here will be accurate. If we look at Tether, USD Coin, and Binance Coin, let's see what they've done during the bear market. Exactly. Do you see what I'm talking about here? I thought the data did this. I think I've looked at this before. But do you see what the stable coins are doing? There's so much money in the stable coins right now as compared to everything else. The stable coins have gained so much value. Even if you just look at Ethereum, see how they've gained value against Ethereum. Let's look at here during this bear market. Tether had a good bit of money in it, but it was actually kind of dropping off during the bull market. Tether, USD Coin, and Binance, the three biggest stablecoins, and there are others, were sitting at a combined total of just over 4% market dominance. Right now, you combine them all together, and you're sitting at 13. The amount of money in stablecoins, not just not by dollar amount, but by percentage of total market capitalization, has tripled. And since when? Since a year ago. What happened a year ago? A year ago, Bitcoin started a bear market. Everybody's sitting on the sidelines, and they're sitting on their hands, not doing anything right now because they don't want to deploy money into Bitcoin right now when they don't know the bottom's in. But the money that's in those stable coins, they do realize something. They realize that while the bottom might not be in yet, it's probably very close. Else, why would they have their money in stable coins? If they're going to invest in Forex, having money in a stablecoin doesn't help you in any way. If you're going to invest in real estate, having your money in a stablecoin doesn't help in any way. But if you're waiting for an investment opportunity in Bitcoin, having your money in a stablecoin makes a whole lot of sense because it's the quickest way to buy Bitcoin while also being able to be out of the price action of Bitcoin. The amount of people that are invested and the amount of money, more importantly, that's invested in stablecoins is higher now than ever before in the history of the crypto market by percentage of market cap. Even by the actual just I don't think TradingView CoinMarketCap has a number for this, but even just by the actual market cap of them, it's changed dramatically. Let's look at Tether and its market capitalization. I think it'll actually be able to give me a chart here. Not of its price. I want to see a chart of its market cap. I don't know if it'll do that. I think it will. Here we go. Look at the market cap of Tether. This is what it's done. January 31st, 2020 was sitting at $5 billion market cap. Over the course of 2020, over the course of 2022, it has sat up here between 60 and 70, 80 billion dollars. So while you've seen Bitcoin drop 75%, Tether has dropped by maybe 20%. It has still dropped, but it is completely outpaced Bitcoin, or Bitcoin's completely and totally outpaced it. And if you take into account the other stablecoins that have grown even more recently than Tether did, because Tether did a lot during the beginning of the last bull market, that's not so much the case for some of these other stablecoins. You can see USDC is sitting up here at 44 billion. There's a ton of money in stablecoins. It hasn't changed much. Whereas the rest of the crypto market has lost 75% of its value, at least the stablecoins have maybe lost 15. That's because the people that are in crypto realize there's an investment opportunity in Bitcoin, but they don't know where it is. And that's where this sideways action comes into play. Is that yes, in the short term, it's boring. Yes, in the short term, we don't know what to do with it. But also, yes, in the medium term, people are looking for a buy. So that's the bull side of things. The bulls are realizing right now, okay, there is going to be a buy opportunity at some point. We just don't know when. The bears, on the other hand, have a completely different modus operandi. The bears don't have as much strength right now as they did. Why? Because you're already down 75, 80% from all-time high. The only strength the bears really have is this. The bears have this idea, and I have this idea, that Bitcoin's dropped 75%. Well, what about the last two bear markets? In the last two bear markets, Bitcoin has dropped 85%. So the bears, going along with the idea of the trend is your friend until it ends, are sitting here waiting. What if Bitcoin makes one final leg to the downside? What if Bitcoin decides to drop down to $12,000 and follow historical trends? Drop another 25% down to 12.7, for example. 12.7 being a major level of support. In fact, it was 13.7, being a major level of support that was built back over here in June of 2019. If we see that drop, then boom, the bears have an opportunity to short the market one last time before flipping, turning around on their heads, and then going right ahead and buying it. And by the way, in most cases, the bulls and the bears are not two different people. They're actually the same people on two different time frames. Let me say that again. The bulls and the bears oftentimes are not two different people. They're the same people on two different time frames. The bulls are the ones that are waiting for that drop. They're waiting for the bottom. The bears are the ones that think there's one more drop. That can actually be the same person operating in two different ways on two different times. So the bulls right now, waiting for that big drop. The bears think there could be one more. That's where we are right now. We're trading sideways because the bears are sitting there waiting for that final drop, but they're not willing to short the market right now because there has not been a catalyst to drop the market. So they're waiting for an opportunity that they themselves are not going to cause. The bulls are waiting for that drop so that then after that drop they can buy, but they're not buying right now because they have not witnessed the drop yet and they want to get the best possible deal they can, and they also don't want to become illiquid when, if they need to deploy their money into a great real estate investment, into a different altcoin investment, whatever, their money is locked up in an asset that's down 25% today, but it could be up 4,000% in 10 years, but nevertheless, they want it now and they can't get it out without taking a capital loss on that transaction. That's why markets trade sideways. The bulls and the bears are both stuck until something happens. And as much as it kind of sucks to say, the best thing that could happen to crypto right now, as far as the price is concerned, I'm not talking ethically, morally, I'm not talking about the human standpoint, but from a pure price action standpoint, one of the best things that could happen to Bitcoin right now would be a black swan event that crashed Bitcoin down to 12,000. And I'll tell you why. If Bitcoin crashed down to 12,000, you would give confidence, you would satisfy the bears, and at the same time, you'd give confidence to the bulls. Again, looking purely price action-wise, not talking about the broader landscape of things, which is arguably far more important. In that case, you would satisfy the bears because the bears are probably not going to expect Bitcoin to drop more than 85%, so they would stop being bears in most cases. Unless, I mean, you have some people that are just staunchly haters of Bitcoin and that they may just short Bitcoin no matter what. They're going to lose money when they lose out on that short trade and they get liquidated. Then the bulls are going to say, okay, $12,000 Bitcoin, doubt it's going much lower than that, maybe $1,000, $2,000 lower. I'm willing to take that bet. And the scales tip. Right now, the scales are just like 52% bearish, 48% bullish, which means that we could go down at any time and the bulls would let it happen, but the bears aren't strong enough to actually do it. So if we saw a black swan event that crashed Bitcoin $4,000, you would almost likely, the bears would do this and then boom, the bears would become a lot stronger for just a second, and then they lose their strength and the bulls would get massively stronger. And that's kind of the inflection point in the market. From that point, you would probably see a lot of sideways action after the bottoming out for several more months as the bulls gain more and more confidence that okay, yeah, that was the bottom. All right. Yeah, that was 2 months before us. Okay, maybe. 3 months ago? Okay, yeah, that was probably the bottom. Oh, that was 6 months ago. Wow, and we still haven't dropped down there, and we saw this other company go bankrupt. Yeah, okay, that was the bottom. We're buying. And then at that point, macro starts to change. People are getting more likely to buy into the market. So there's that. That's my stance on Bitcoin right now. Make sure to check out Lux Algo, guys. It's a wonderful technical indicator. Going to run through one more piece of news here briefly. Huobi confirms 20% layoffs, denies insolvency rumors. If you don't know, Huobi is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the entire cryptocurrency market. You can see Huobi is sitting over here on CoinMarketCap right here. As far as daily trading volume, they're sitting at number 14. As far as weekly visits, they are one of the most highly visited cryptocurrency exchanges, sitting at 2 million weekly visits. Of course, Binance is far and above everybody else, but Huobi is basically tied for second, along with L-Bank, who I'm not familiar with. But nevertheless, Huobi is right here, and they have their exchange reserve data posted over here on CoinMarketCap. This is a complete joke, the way that CoinMarketCap has this set up, because we don't know what the liabilities are. I've already harped on that enough. And by the way, as far as Huobi is concerned, they have got 36% of their own cryptocurrency basically as their deposits and their token allocation. Again, I still can't figure out whether or not this is customer deposits or this is customer deposits and what the exchange is holding. The site is not very clear on that. But if this is a big part of the reserves, that's a concern. And it does call it financial reserves over here. So nevertheless, going back to the article, key Huobi execs, including Huobi Group CFO Lily Zhang, allegedly left the company a few months ago after following a new shareholders takeover. Basically, Justin Sun, the founder and CEO of the Tron Network, purchased Huobi and all of its organizational components and became the new largest shareholder recently, and I believe installed himself basically as a CEO. Basically kind of a takeover similar to what Elon Musk did, but here in cryptocurrency. And as you can see right here, this is from a spokesperson for Huobi that said in a statement to Cointelegraph today, the planned layoff ratio is about 20%, but is not implemented now. The representative emphasized that the allegations of Huobi firing as many as 40% of the employees is a rumor. With the current state of the bear market, a very lean team will be maintained going forward. The personnel optimization aims to implement the brand strategy, optimize the structure, improve efficiency, and return to the top three, as of where they are not right now. The company's representative said, "We are aware of the comments regarding the Huobi app and the safety of user assets. Such unfounded and inflammatory rumors not only damage Huobi's brand, but ultimately affect the interest of Huobi users." So they are saying that funds are safe. Time will tell on that. By the way, 20% of their staff, according to their LinkedIn, they have between 1,000 and 5,000 employees. Who knows if that's up to date or not, but this is their official Huobi page. I would like to think that they are up to date on that. Very possible that they end up losing a lot, and I'm talking a lot, of employees here as the cryptocurrency industry continues to shrink. Anyway, are they going to go bankrupt? That's kind of the question of the hour right now. It doesn't seem like it, but we don't know. We really just don't know. There's not enough reporting. There's not enough transparency. There just isn't enough. Coffee in the mornings with water and then water all day. Boom. Yeah, I haven't had coffee. I drank a little bit, just a tiny little bit of Dr. Pepper yesterday to cut the withdrawal side effects. I literally measured it like I was taking medicine or something. I drank 20 milligrams of caffeine when I would normally before have like 200 or 300 a day. So it took just a tiny little bit to help me wean myself off. But other than that, I haven't had any coffee since Wednesday when everything went down with us going to labor and delivery. I did make some coffee that day because I was not about to be in the middle of caffeine withdrawal while I was having my daughter born at 25 weeks. So I did have some coffee then. I figured that was a good enough reason to have some. Haven't had any since then. All right, so as far as you guys want, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on what was going on. Queen said hashtag FinSolve. Boom. Thank you so much. So essentially, we found something out last night. We found out that Sarah has an infection. And if you know anything about pregnancy, that's extremely dangerous. Like, that's very dangerous. And so we've been praying a lot, and you guys have been praying a lot, and we've got dozens and dozens and dozens of people in our community that have come out to pray for us, and we're so very thankful because last night we realized and did a test that Sarah has a certain kind of infection. The tricky thing is, while we were at the labor and delivery on Wednesday night, and I won't name the hospital we were at, but to answer somebody's question earlier, we were not at UF. I told the nurse that was at the front desk, the front area where you received, and she was very nice. I told the nurse that was with us, she needs to work on her bedside manner, and the doctor, as far as the obstetrician doctor that came in, with a doctorate kind of doctor that came in, I told each of those three individuals, each of them professionally, medically trained professionals, that my wife has a history of the same kind of infection. I told each one of them that she very likely had this kind of infection 3 times. I told them that our last child, Malachi, when he was 35 weeks pregnant, she had this kind of infection, and that she almost went into preterm labor. I told them about the history of preterm labor in both of our families biologically. And I told them all of this, and I told them that I want them to do this test, which, by the way, is standard operating procedure, because if this was a factor that was causing her to have contractions, it is most likely, what the problem is. They didn't do the test for 2 hours, so I went out to help my brother get the car seat so they could go pick up Malachi from preschool, and I saw if they still hadn't done the test, and I said, can you please do that? And they said, yes, they will do it. And the doctor told us to not expect the test results back today. We did the test at home, and it took 2 minutes. So that's negligence. And I'm not bitter. I'm not unforgiving. I forgive them. Look, I've made mistakes too, and I've made some pretty massive mistakes in my day. I've made even bigger mistakes than that. So I'm not going to sit here and judge them for something. And there's a place for judgment, and I definitely, as far as the judgment is concerned, I think what happened was negligent. I think it was potentially criminal. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect and be on a high horse, because I'm definitely not. And I hope I'm not coming off that way. But at the same time, the main reason I tell you guys this is, one, to keep you guys informed, but also, two, so that if you're at a doctor's office and you're young, or doctors are blowing you off like they did us, they literally wrote on the discharge papers, frequency of contractions, none. We have the discharge papers. Frequency of contractions, none. When the nurse and the doctor said, yes, she's having contractions every 10 minutes, they can see it on the monitor, which means that you are in active labor based on the definition of under 15 minutes. And then they said pain, none, when she told them she was in a 5 out of 10 on the pain scale, they said. So the reason I'm telling you this is, number one, even something even worse than this is not an excuse for bitterness. Bitterness is sin, and it means that we're not trusting in God. So if I'm bitter because of what someone else did, then I'm wrong. And then we're both at fault. And then I'm not above reproach, and then I've kind of lost my ability to testify to them because my testimony is broken in that instance. So I'm praying that I not be bitter, even though it is a temptation, because it is a very dangerous thing that was taking place. As soon as the stream is over, we're leaving to go to the doctor's office to get some medicine, because we found out what this was. Two, I wasn't really sure how much of a stink I should have made about that. I probably should have made a bigger one. I probably should have said, no, we're not leaving until you do the test, because I'm very confident that that's what the problem is. That's on me. And I need to do better in the future. I was very, very, very insistent, but I should have everything but basically demanded that take place. So that's a confession to you guys, I suppose. I definitely stood up for it, but it just, I don't know, I should have forced it. But anyway, and the other reason I tell you this is because really I just want you guys to know that first of all, you got to be really careful, because people will condescend to you because of your age, because of your lack of a degree, because of your lack of experience, even though you might be right in something. Now, I'm not saying being prideful, but I know my wife, and my wife knows herself. We both know our medical history. Those doctors did not. We told them that, and they should have taken it more seriously. And so if you know what the truth is, stand up for it. Speak the truth in love. In the vast majority of cases, unless it's life and death, try not to force it. Pray that their hearts will be changed. In that instance, probably should have forced it a little bit more, because it was a health thing. But anyway, I'm over time. I got to go. We're going to the hospital. Not the hospital. We're going to the doctor. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Really just very sad that took place. I'm over. I do have to go. Let me read just one or two chats. Looks like you guys are giving a lot of love. Really appreciate everything. They definitely don't respect young parents. It's nationwide. Yeah, it's sad. My nephew was born at 22 weeks gestation. He is 4 or 5 years old now, completely healthy. Boom. Thank you. All right, guys. We will go ahead and wrap it out here. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. We'll be doing my best to get a Sunday video out. We'll probably be on this topic. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.